Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 103, where tonight we'll talk about the match, analyse the player performances, the transfer latest, talk about VAR, take your questions and look ahead to Chelsea. Of course, I'm joined by my two regular imbeciles in the form of club captain Mark Knock and our director of football, Chris Tyler. If only I could share the things that I said off air before to set these two up, the show would be finished. But thank you for joining us in this live Sunday night 9 p.m. episode. Also, thank you to those of you who are listening and watching on Catch Up on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Spotify on Monday morning onwards. I had the pleasure of joining these boys at Arsenal. The best bit of the day was the entertainment, the banter, and a couple of the drinks. But it wasn't a bad performance from Wolverhampton Wanderers. But let's not take my word. Let's not take my word for it. Let's take Nocky's word for it. Nocky, your take on Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, Arsenal 2.
I thought we were okay. It's not really a fair barometer of where we are, is it? A game like that, they're the best defence in the country. They're going to finish in the top two. I think they've got a little sneaky. They might win it this year. They're a much better team than us, aren't they? So it was. It was okay considering the situation we were in. I thought we were organised. We had a few moments in the game as well. We had some opportunities. We had them under a bit of pressure, especially in the second half. There's kind of a 20-minute spell where we weren't creating a great deal, but we were having some activity around their penalty area, and we were moving the ball pretty well and looked quite good in midfield, and we were stretching them a little bit as well, to the point where Arteta actually had to make a change or two. So it was okay. I think the only real disappointing thing for me were the 2 goals we gave away. When you're playing a team the quality of Arsenal, you've got to make them work for the goals, and I don't think we did that. I think on the first goal, Mario should probably come out and squeeze Saka a bit more. You know that he's going to put it onto his left foot, and you know he's probably going to deliver with quality, and we don't track the runner particularly well. It's a good run by Havertz. He's a top player, isn't he? But I don't think we track him particularly well, and I think Sarr maybe was in no man's land slightly as well. And then for the second goal, again, you're letting him cut inside and beat Sarr on the near post. It's a good strike, but it's not right in the corner. It's central enough for me that he should maybe get something on it. But other than that, I thought we were okay. There was, on another day, maybe the header goes in from Larsen, and Ait-Nouri fires one just wide as well. So we've lost against the big teams. We've played a lot worse against the big teams, and we've lost heavier than that. So it was a decent performance, although I do always think Arsenal had us at arm's length. I thought they were always very comfortable. I don't think they really came out of first or second gear, but you know, our season is not going to be defined by games against Arsenal, City, teams like that. To stay in the division, you've got to beat the teams around you, haven't you? So it was okay, but it probably went the way we all thought it would.
Well, this is the main difference, Tyler, isn't it? Against the big teams, if you make mistakes or you don't get your chance, take your chances, you'll get punished, and that's exactly what happened on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I think Nocky summed it well, and it was exactly what I thought it would be, really. I thought it would be a very comfortable day for Arsenal. I think it ended up being that. The first goal was disappointing. I mean, like you said, it's hard to criticise Mario. I thought it was superb. But he's got to close Saka down. And then when the cross comes in, if your keeper's not going to come and get there, he's got to stay put. So Knocker's right. The fact that we've almost not given them 2 goals, but that's the disappointing bit for me. You know, Knocky's right. There were good bits. There were good parts. I'm sure we'll come on to the individual performances and we can criticise and praise, but you can't, Knocky's right, you can't judge the season on going to Arsenal away. You watch Chelsea today, they've got beat 2-0 at home to City. It's the same result. And they're in the same boat. You know, better teams come and done a job on them. And Arsenal are just better than us all over the pitch. And you can't, I don't think, read too much into it. There's some positives, but there were also some thoughts I had around, we knew this last season and we're having it again now. And that's the bit that's a bit concerning. You know, Knocker makes a great point. Is this season 6 or 7 and Matt Doherty starting a right back? You could argue that's not acceptable. You've got the same problems around Jose Sarr that we talked about, poor distribution. They're common themes that we keep talking about, and maybe they need to be addressed. But I thought Nocky summed it up well. We are where we are, and, you know, we'd have probably all taken a 2-0 defeat, as negative as that sounds, wouldn't we?
I mean, we have a laugh and a joke about the scores. I think we all realistically knew it was probably going to be a Wolves defeat. We said early part of last week, don't get embarrassed, stay in the game, give us a little bit of hope, don't get injured, don't get suspended. I'll be honest, yeah, I'm taking way more positives than negatives. And from the negatives that I did see, we already had concerns about Totti. He highlighted his distribution. He's probably going to get a little bit more exposed if he's not sharper in a 4 than it would be a 3. Whereas, because obviously when he's in 3, he's got a sweeper and he's got a left back. Now he's a bit more stretched and he has to be more accurate because the press is on. Again, we're judging him against one of the best pressing sides. Arsenal squeeze you and give you no chance at all. So is it a fair barometer on Totti? We are going to go into the players as well, but a little shout out to Matt Doherty, who I've criticised a lot. I thought he was one of Wolves' most competent players yesterday.
Yeah,
particularly spectacular going forward, but solid in possession. Didn't really do a lot wrong. So credit to Doherty. Hats off. Yeah, fair play. But overall, guys, I can't say I'm disappointed. And Nocky, it's not like Wolves went and tucked in and were like, well, it was 2-0, but it could have been 10. It wasn't that kind of game. Jose Sarr wasn't battered, and Wolves had plenty of opportunities to score.
Yeah, I mean, we were solid, weren't we? But as I said earlier, I felt Arsenal were always very, very comfortable. They were always in first gear. And yeah, you know, we didn't get slapped, but it's a shame that that's kind of the ambition now. You know, a few years ago, we were going to places like City, and we're going to places like Arsenal, and we were taking them on, and we were getting results back from them. But you just don't have any feeling that's going to happen in these kind of games now because we're just not at the level we were. We're a bottom half Premier League side. So it's a shame that after, what is this, our 6th, 7th year, something like that, we're still going into these games just hoping we don't get slapped. So I thought it was a decent performance in terms of the way we worked. There's things we need to work on. I don't think we got back into our shape particularly quickly. I thought that we allowed a lot of space when they had the ball in the wide positions and we didn't shut down the dangerous players. But there was some positive moments. I think that, you know, Doherty was good, but that's the right kind of game for him because you don't want him to go forward. You want him to sit there and just try to defend. So we had a few opportunities. I never really felt like we were going to score, and that's not me trying to be negative. I just felt that they were very, very good defensively. They were very solid, had an excellent shape, and it was hard for us to really get in and around them and cause them any trouble. So yeah, you know, I mean, it's just a shame that our main objective now is just not to get slapped.
Yeah, there's an interesting point coming in here, Tyler, from Still with Gary had that feeling, he went for it. And I would agree. I don't think Wolves went there to try. I think they had a go. And I think considering it was a back 4 with very limited back 4 Premier League experience, particularly the 2 centre-backs, I know we got exposed and we talk about some of Toti's distribution later on. I don't think Arsenal were. You could say Arsenal were, or they were taking it easy. Wolves were in that game until that second goal. I mean, there's a brilliant save. There's a few opportunities, class finishing, poor keeping, whichever way you want to look at it. The better side were, no doubt about it. But I know you always say you're very much a half glass empty kind of guy, but I'm still taking away more positives than I am negatives from that game.
I'm not sure I am, but I do get where you're coming from. But I was with my lad yesterday, and he's 12, and obviously he's naive to watching Wolves over the years that we have. And second half starts, and he's like, "We're on top here, Dad. We're on top. We're all over."
He's right. We were on top for a bit.
And then I said, "We'll lose 2-0." And I was right because I was fully expecting Arsenal just to do us. No, but I was just expecting them to do us on the break.
Yeah.
And I said, "You're almost at." It was almost like Arsenal, like Nocky said, they were almost inviting us on to then go again. And it's not like a cat with a mouse sort of playing with us, but I don't think we were ever really a threat to Arsenal yesterday, if I'm brutally honest. I thought if Ait-Nouri goes in or Larsen's header goes in, they'll just go up another gear again. And that's what you're facing with the big guns. And, you know, the worst thing you can do against them almost is score against them, isn't it? But I'm not totally negative by it. I went there, and like I said, when you asked my previous question, I'm just coming away with the same questions I had at the back end of last season, which I suppose is where my frustration is a little bit. You know, we've talked about Sarr's distribution. It was poor again. We've talked about Totti on the ball. He was very poor again. We've talked about Hwang. If he doesn't score goals, how does he impact the game? That was the situation yesterday. We're talking about the same things that we were talking about last season. And for me, that's why I'm still a little bit sceptical about where we are at the moment.
I mean, yeah, great points from you both, Nocky. But it's not Arsenal's really. It's a really hard yardstick, Arsenal, to judge. I mean, this is the most likely that they're going to win the Premier League. They're worst case, Arsenal are going to finish second, aren't they? They're a really good side. I don't know if they've got any world class players, but they've got some of the very best players in Europe playing for them. Some of them unplayer on their day. So, and I know it was a reality check, but are we being a little bit harsh on them because they've gone to Arsenal? And we'll never know whether they were like, oh, it was easy for them or not. But Wolves were in that game up until 75 minutes, and they had opportunities to equalise. And you can say, yeah, they can turn it up a notch again. But are we being a little bit harsh, or do you think we are where we are with it?
I don't think we're being harsh because I don't think we're digging anybody out. I think we're just being honest about what we saw on the day. It was a team that always looked like they had more gears to move into. They had more quality on the bench. They had enough on that pitch to beat us a little bit more comfortably than we did. But yes, we're absolutely always in the game at 1-0. We've always got an opportunity. But I'll see what Chris is saying. You know, you always, with these teams, you always feel like they're in a bit of cruise control and they can move through the gears when they need to. And it was very similar to when we beat the Albion last season. We always had a level of control in the game. We were always able to dictate the way that the match was going, even though they had opportunities and a few chances. We were always able to control possession and control the game, really. And I think that's where we were. So it's not, you know, we're not digging anybody out. They are a much better team than us. They're going to finish a long way clear of us. They're in the Champions League. They're one of the favourites to win it. They're one of the favourites to win the Premier League. So there's no, you know, it's not being negative. It's just being realistic that we've regressed in recent years. I think if you look at the transfer situation now, I think our squad is better, but I think our 11 is weaker. So year on year, we've probably regressed again. So it's no surprise that we're making these kind of comments because it's where we are at the minute. We're not as good as we were this time last year. So it could all change dramatically in the next couple of weeks, but we're not at Arsenal's level, and you can't see us being there for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I think, to be on Arsenal level, talking about that and Wolverhampton Wanderers would be a dream come true. But I like the fact that Gary O'Neill's got a bunch of players that are all buying in. I think he's been brave to go to a back four, to go to Arsenal with Yersin Mosquera and Toti Gomez as your centre-backs. He was either going to be brave or people are going to say it was absolutely stupid. But distribution-wise, we were caught out a little bit. But I actually thought that it's not like they weren't carving Wolves open again and again. There wasn't like through ball, shot, save, post over the bar, being absolutely pumped. That didn't happen. And those Arsenal fans were quiet. I know you could say that happens in the big stadiums, but up until that second goal, Nocky, we said they knew they were in a game. Wolves were giving them a proper game of football. And I look forward and think, with a fit Cunha, with a new right attacker, which I believe we'll get, with a new left-footed centre-back, which I believe we'll get, that's improving 30% of your outfield. And I think going forward, I really like the platform. I don't like losing 2-0, Tyler, but I like the platform that he's building with the back four. We've talked about it. The best teams going forward do that now. And I think he's building on something to go with the four, to go forwards, to say, as you say to me, play with the butterflies more.
Do you think that gets the best out of Ryan Ait-Nouri?
Well, that's another question for later on. But
I'm asking you now.
Okay. With Ryan Ait-Nouri, I don't think there's anyone better on the ball with the ball at his feet at the club. Not in terms of passing or crossing, but in terms of raw ability just to drop past somebody. And I think Gary O'Neill wants him more on the ball, cutting inside to get into the middle of the pitch. I'm not saying he's Joe Cancelo or he's John Stones dropping into the centre of the park. But what I am saying is, I think as the season goes forward, I mean, this is stole someone's question, but I have my answer ready, but you can have it instead. I do think Ryan Ait-Nouri will be more the player that will drop, he'll cut inside and he'll be comfortable on the ball there because he's so comfortable in awkward areas. He never shy, he always wants the ball. He can drop, he can hold it. He's deceptively strong. So are we going to get the best attacking out from going forward on the left? No. Is he going to give us more control on the ball and ability in midfield to allow others to do stuff? Yes. I think we'll see more in a central position when Wolves are in possession.
Yeah, and you know, we've been calling for that back four, haven't we, between us? And I'm just hoping he gets the balance right. And I was very impressed with Mosquera. It's early days, but I thought he looked like he played there for a good few years, didn't he? I liked what I saw. I liked his housery, for want of a better phrase, as well. I like to see a bit of that, a bit of nastiness as well. So I think you've talked about it, Ryan. I think if we can get a top quality left-sided centre back in, I think the back four's okay with Ait-Nouri and Semedo there. I'm not too concerned about it. It's then making sure we can then get the best out, at the top end of the pitch. We seem to have a focal point now. We seem to have enough options off them. So yeah, like Nocky said, it's not about coming on here and being negative, or we're just saying how we see it. But I think there are reasons to be positive. The Ait-Nouri one, I just think he's a natural left wing back. I think that's his position, and I just hope we can find a way of getting the best out of him, attacking wise and defensively.
Well, there's some questions later on about in terms of Ait-Nouri's position going forward, because at the end of last season when we were struggling, we put him up front. He was scoring, he was assisting, he was exciting, and he's someone. And people have talked about the Gareth Bale. He's not Gareth Bale. I don't think he ever will be, but to have that conversation about someone that started as a left back going forward because of his talent, I think that's definitely a conversation to be had. Because again, not like Adama Traore, but in terms of excitement, Adama got me excited. He gets the ball, beats. That's why you go to be entertained. Ait-Nouri could, he could do keep you up. He's blindfolded in a post box. He's incredible. His ball control is off the chart, and I want to see him further up. But were we ever going to really see that at Arsenal? I mean, he got forward, didn't he? He got forward. He had a shot. So I think that was reasonably central as well, and I think that's where we'll see more dropping in as Wolves try and do various overloads on the pitch. But yeah, Nocky, what's your biggest positive and what's your biggest negative out of the game the weekend?
I think just coming back to your point quickly before I move on to that. I know you're saying we need a centre half, we need this, we need that. We haven't signed those players yet, and the ones we linked to are quite young. We were linked with a young lad from Holland. So until those players come through the door, this is what we've got to work with, and I still think we're a bit short at the moment. In terms of positives and negatives, I thought the negative with the goals we gave away, I thought they were soft. When you're playing a team like Arsenal, make them work for the goals, don't give them to you. And we did. We gifted them 2 goals for me. I think the positives were that we kept going. We had a few opportunities. We weren't smashed. It was an honest performance, a decent shape, and on another day, maybe we do get a goal and make it a bit more interesting.
Tyler, your positive and negative from the game?
Positives. The spread that Nocky and his old man put on the way down there was exceptional. Negatives, I think, like I touched upon, the fact we still, we're talking about things that we were talking about last season, and I think we've had time to move on from those and to eradicate those and improve on those. So without focusing too much on the game, because Nocky called it, it's not a barometer. You can't go to Arsenal away and be like, oh, we're disappointed. I think it's the fact we're still talking about Sar's distribution, Toti's distribution, Hwang's impact. It's the same thing. So that's the main negative for me.
Yeah, my positive, negative. The main positive for me was the bravery of the back four. We were all concerned. Even the most positive people were like Tosi and Yerson, that's going to be tough. I think them two. I mean, forget without the ball, they stood up to it. They didn't carve us open. We didn't get pumped, and I really like things going forward. If that's with Yerson and Toti, what can you do if another left centre back comes in? That's a massive positive and a credit to those two defensively, but not so much distribution wise. The negative, I think we've known for a long time that Neto's going, so to not have a replacement on that side of the pitch, I think Wolves were pretty bland, particularly on that right hand side. Doherty actually did a really good job, but it felt like he had nobody in front of him. For me, that was that was a bit of a negative. But while we're talking about that, we'll move on to the individual player performances. But first out, I want to give a shout out to New Homes, UK Mortgage Experts, Act Solutions, and Edwards & Co. These guys are our 3 charity sponsors for the up and coming tournament, the Content Creators Cup, which is happening on September the 7th, all for charity or for the very good of the Wolves Foundation. Tyler will be playing. They're having swap roles. Nocky's going to be our director of football. I think Tyler will have the armband, and I'll be there breathing out of somewhere where Mascara was trying to poke the weekend. but there we go. Moving on to the individual performances. You've played in goal. I've scored past you at Molineux, and it still gives me great joy and seeing the sadness on your face. But tell me about Jose Sar's performance the weekend, Tyler.
I thought it was a bit smelly, to be honest. I think you could. There's an argument to say he's at fault for both goals potentially. You're being a bit hypercritical if you're saying that, but if he's coming for that first one, he's got to take the lot out and get to the ball, and he hasn't. So if he doesn't do that,
it's proper no man's land, isn't it? There,
yeah, he needs to stay on his line. There's an argument if he stays on his line, he gets beat anyway. So I get why he's come for it, but if you come for it, you've got to get there. The second one really disappointed me.
Do you not think he was a little bit blindsided because he hit the ball through the centre back? Is he unlucky there, or should you not be getting beat from your near post there?
I'm not having it. It was nice height, middle of the goal, 18 yards out. I don't think he should get beat from there. And his distribution was disgusting again. I thought it was a poor performance from him, if I'm brutally honest. Even the second goal, if you take away the fact he's got beaten there, it was his kick that he launched out of play that gave Arsenal possession to then make.
It was a short, low drilled one, wasn't it, that went straight to them?
Yeah. So he gets away with his lack of distribution while he's making saves that keep Wolves in the game. If that doesn't carry on being the case, then the argument for him to replace is just going to get louder and louder. I thought it was a poor performance from him. I thought he looked rusty, and I thought he was under par. So I'd probably be giving him a 4 out of 10, something like that.
Yeah, I've been doing the players rating for our Wolves Report website tomorrow, and I was around the 4 mark. I haven't really read much one else, but for someone that's so good at saves, you're disappointed that he probably should be doing better. Now, for me, as you said, when you're a keeper, you either fully commit and you collect if you're going to get it, or you stay on your line. And he seemed to not believe he was ever going to get it, and Wolves got punished. I mean, it's a great cross and a great header, but if you're not going to challenge properly, it's going to happen. Nocky, moving on to the back four, Matt Doherty. I almost feel like I'm a bit rude saying it was a pleasant surprise, but I'm happy to eat humble pie when I criticise any player. He was the biggest concern for me. The pace of Havertz, Saka, Martinelli, anyone that was around, it was a real concern for me. But I thought Matt Doherty put in a solid right-back performance at the Emirates.
I thought he was good. His experience was massive, I think. He was very disciplined in what he did. He didn't overcommit. I don't really remember him getting over the halfway line much. He was controlling that area of the field. No one went past him. It was probably best performances he's been since he come back to the club for me, because he did a job for the team as opposed to bombing up and down as a wing back like he used to do. So yeah, pleased with him. Thought it was a good display.
Yeah, I thought he partnered really well with Yerson. I didn't really see a lot of trouble on that side of the pitch. I didn't really see the Wolves get cut open a lot, to be honest, but I thought those two actually, and imagine you just said, you're going to have Matt Doherty and Yerson Mosquera, and they're going to actually play well together. No one would have believed it, but I thought he was all right. Moving on to the growing cult hero, Tyler, that is Yerson Mosquera. Wolves have been often criticised, particularly by us, been a little bit nice, a bit gentle. I mean, and now we've gone complete opposite to gone to absolute horror show. But that fan base, that 3,000 fans, I think they're falling in love with this new centre-back.
I mean, I'm not sure you can go around tickling people at the bum and choke slapping them, can you? But,
allegedly, because we don't know he did that. He was just trying to move him out of the way.
It's a rear reducer, mate. I'm all for it.
He made a tackle first half, didn't he, as they were breaking, and he just took everything with him. And as a football fan, that's all you want to see, isn't it? You want your centre-half to be doing that. And like I said, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I thought it was a very accomplished centre-half performance. If you've been ultra negative, Havertz got in front of him for the first goal. If you've been really critical, but I think that was his only blip, really, and he's got punished. I thought he was good on the ball.
If you're expecting your keeper to come and collect,
there's a little bit of that, but it's still his man.
If he shouted keepers and he stood there, I mean, let's be fair. It's a great ball from one of the best wide players in European football, and it's a great header.
I said, you're being ultra critical if you criticised him for it, but that's what we're here for, isn't it? That's what we're here to talk about. But I liked him a lot, and it's that bit of housery that we haven't had, and he looks comfortable on the ball. He's physical enough. He's quick enough. Like you said, didn't really seem overly troubled. As Premier League debuts go, is it? He might have, I don't know if he's come on before, but as Premier League starts go,
I don't recall.
That was his first start. Hard to criticise him. I thought he was very, very good. And it's a good job you've got Nocky talking about his mate at left centre-back, because otherwise I'd get banned.
Well, technically, that's why I did it. But I feel like I'm doing Nocky a disservice by not letting him talk about Yerson, because Paul Somerset Wolves talked about Muscat, and I know, Noki's got a tattoo on his of Muscat. So he's a big fan of the reducers. But Noki, we've talked all about Wolves being a bit nice. I know we're going over it, but there's somebody there that wants to defend. He'll do the ugly stuff and he'll go a little bit further maybe than he should. But for me, we talked about in pre-season, you guys talked about being concerned, but he's gone to the Emirates, he's not been skinned, and it's a proper naughty centre-back performance.
He's quick, he's physical, he stood up to the challenge really well. Tried to strangle Havertz and stuck a finger up Jesus' bum, so it was an interesting performance for him. But I mean, look, I don't think I'm going to get too excited at this point. It's let's give him 5 or 6 games to really settle in. But it feels like he's got that level of physicality that perhaps we wanted from Kilman last season. Kilman was a little bit too nice, maybe a little bit too soft when the players in and around him.
Let's go the complete opposite then, shall we?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the tackle Chris was talking about, it was a fair tackle. It was a perfect tackle, but he made sure that the man sat on his backside as a result of it. And that's what you want from your centre-half. You want him to come and make sure that he takes the ball. So a good start, but it's just that at the moment. It's just a start.
Yeah, it's a start, and it's a good start. You're not going to get many bigger tests than that. So yeah, credit where it's due, and I thought he did well next to him. Let's keep this one on you. Tell me about Toti Gomez. Someone's put a comment up here, and I've got to ask Chris the question afterwards because it's an absolute belter. But while I'm finding it, going through the comments, tell me about Toti's performance, Knocker.
He didn't do a great deal wrong, but he makes me nervous every time he's on the ball. I'm really uncomfortable with him being in a 2 because he just feels very clumsy on the ball. There was a couple of times where he kind of swiped the ball away and lost possession, and his positional sense in a 2, I'm not comfortable with. I don't think he's the long-term answer in that position. I don't mind him in a 3 because I think he's physical, he's strong, he can cover his left back or his left wing back, and he's got the opportunity to make a little bit of an impact on that side. But when you're relying on him centrally, I think the teams who can move the ball very quickly and are sharp and get into the space, they're going to pull him all over the place for me. So he wasn't terrible, and he warrants a place in the squad. There's no doubt about that. But I would like to think when we come out of September, he's not our first choice centre-half.
He more worries me when he's pressed. I don't mind when teams are attacking us because I always believe that he's strong enough, aggressive enough, and determined enough to beat most people in the battle. Like you don't. Like I've said this so many times. You don't like Diaby, Phil Foden, Kulusevski. You don't pin those players out of the game if you're a crap defender and he's not. Now, you can. I mean, this is just very much tongue in cheek, but it made me laugh. Bobby Smith says, if Toti resembled a piano falling down the stairs in a back 5, what musical instrument is he in a back 4? Now, I don't want it to be a Toti slagging match. He's gone to a 4 in Arsenal, but that's funny. That's funny.
I think, though, to your point, right, I get what you're saying, but I think when you're just controlling the left-hand side of a defensive area, you know exactly what your role is. You know you're going to protect your wing back. You know that your centre-half, whether it's Kilman or whether it's Bueno or Dawson, they're going to slip in behind you to give you that layer of protection. When you're in a 2, you're very much reliant on your positional sense. So, are you going to go and cover the edge of the 6-yard box when a ball comes in? You're going to drop to the edge of the area. I think there's a lot more responsibility in that position because you haven't got a Kilman behind you who can navigate you and put themselves into the right positions to clear the ball. When you're in a 2, you're very much up against it. So that's my sort of fear with him. He's a lot of responsibility in a very difficult position to play, and I'm just not sure he's comfortable himself playing that way.
Yeah, it's a real tough one, isn't it? Because he never seems particularly natural, but I trust him.
He's not natural,
no, he's not. I trust him in a one-on-one duel. Go on, mate.
You're saying it's a tough one, but if O'Neill wants to play out from the back like he did yesterday, you can't do that with Sarr or Toto. You boys telling me you weren't having a coronary when we were trying to play out from the back first half. You're just waiting for us to give the ball away, aren't you?
I think my Guinness was wearing off then, so I couldn't really see. It's
not digging him out, and people say we use him as a scapegoat and that sort of thing. It's nothing against him. He's a very committed, 110% footballer. You can't knock the guy one piece. He's just not good enough as a left centre back in a 2 to play football with the ball or to defend if he hasn't got the ball. That's not being like negative or digging people out, but it's obvious to see, isn't it? And I thought first half yesterday, I almost felt a bit sorry for him because he was giving the ball away time and time again. I know Saka dived for that penalty, but he slips. Like Nocky said, he just looks a bit awkward, doesn't he? You're almost you're at the point where I almost feel like I don't need to get any worse for him, and that sounds terrible. I'm with Nocky, left centre back in a 3. I haven't got much issue with it, to be honest, but he can't be the solution moving forward.
No, I agree, and I'm sure you both agree with me. The fact that you would love Totti suddenly to turn into Maldini and prove us all wrong. I've got a lot of time for Totti in his application, but it does look a struggle. As I said, I think Totti's at his most vulnerable when he's being pressed. When he's defending, I'm comfortable within a race or a fight with anybody at all. And if Wolves are out of possession, I think that's when he's at his best. If I'm an opponent, I'm pressing Totti because he's the weakest one. And it may be why we've seen a little bit of a reduction in Ait-Nouri's performance as well, because he's probably having to cover and sit in there as well. But it's not a Totti slagging match. It's an observation, and he did struggle in the first half. I thought he improved second half, Chris. I think that's fair. I think
better.
In the second half, I think they all did. I think the team stepped up the first 20-25 minutes.
He needs a role, though, doesn't he? I know we're talking about Totti, but he needs a role. He needs to know his responsibility. So you're patrolling the left side of the pitch. You're patrolling from the corner flag up to the edge of the 6-yard box. That's your area to cover up to the halfway line. If he knows what his duty is, he's comfortable. But it opens up so much when you're playing in a 2 instead of in a 3 and your wing back's gone, and that's why Chris is right. It's not a slagging match, but you can see he's going to get targeted every game now. Anyone who does their homework on Wolves are going to know that Mosquera, you've got a risk of a finger going somewhere awkward, or if you go after Totti, you've got an opportunity to cause him some issues, and you're probably going to get the ball back. So
this is on after 9 o'clock.
That's my concern. And again, I like Totti. I think he's an honest player, never lets you down. But we just need something else in that position.
Yeah, and I do genuinely believe that Wolves will have competition in that position come the end of the window. I'm confident of 2 coming in, and I think
you've been saying that for a few weeks now, sir.
But it's playing it for 4 seasons, mate.
Yeah, I just keep repeating this bit of the show. Moving.
Question, one for you, boy. What does it say to Bueno and Dawson?
This is exactly the point I was going to make next. What does it say though in terms of how we want to play? So which bit do you meet in the middle? If you're playing Dawson or Santi, particularly Dawson, unbelievable defender, great in the air, like Jay Martino as a defender, making good decisions again and again and again and again. However, he's so vulnerable. He's not going to be able to play high up as he did. So you're sacrificing the solid defending for the raw pace, and when he gets himself in trouble, sometimes he can get him out of trouble. If Dawson makes a mistake or there's a ball in behind it, he can't. And if Wolves are playing with 3 at the back, you'd say Dawson would be in the middle and he looks a different shape, and he's probably alternating with Santi from when he's fit and when he's not. But can we honestly say, though, it was that bad yesterday? You never want. We're not talking about dropping Totti. None of you two are going to say drop Totti next week. There's no. I don't believe either of you would say that.
I am. 100%.
No way. I don't believe that. For
100%. If you're telling me Totti Gomez is a better Premier League centre half than Craig Dawson,
is he a better?
What conversation are we having?
So are we then, though, saying that we're going to tuck in at home to Chelsea and invite them on?
I don't care what we do at home to Chelsea. Craig Dawson's a better Premier League centre half than Totti Gomez.
He's a better defender for sure. But but are we going to ask Craig Dawson?
He's better with the ball, Ryan, as well.
Yeah,
he's better at reading. He's better at reading the game. The only thing he falls down on is pace.
So why is Gary doing that then?
I don't. That's what I'm asking you. I don't know. That's why I said, what does it say to to Dawson and Bueno if Totti's getting ahead of you?
Well, I trust Gary O'Neill. Certainly more than I trust Nocco. But all right, son. But there's a reason he's doing it, and I think he's preparing for when the actual other left centre back comes in, who will have similar attributes to Totti, but probably be a more natural footballer. That's what I believe is happening. Now, that's my take on it.
There's one coming in. If we're playing 2 centre backs, we've got 4 in the squad. Why would we sign a 5th?
Because he knows he can improve on Totti, and he wants a left footer that's strong and fast, and I believe you'll get that.
I don't know. I just don't know if I see it. Santi Bueno was signed to be our centre half, wasn't he? He's in a 3,
but he's not.
He came on. He didn't even come on Saturday. Dawson did. So where does that leave him?
Yeah, well, he leaves him a long way down, particularly if a new one comes in as well. Again, I think Santi's a fantastic defender, but he's got the same problem as Dawson. There isn't much left in the engine. Good defender, good positioning, very good decent on the ball. Doesn't really make mistakes, but
But if you've got Yersin next to you with that pace and that cover, and Semedo when he comes back with that pace, and Ait-Nouri with his pace, do we need 4 pacey defenders? I just don't see it myself. I don't get it. I don't see why we're saying that Totti all of a sudden gets ahead. I just don't see it myself. That's just my opinion.
No, and I mean, there's some really good points here as well. Kishan, I think, says the same as well. He says there's no way in a month of Sundays Totti should be picked in front of Dawson. And you know what? You guys might be right. I can. The only explanation is the pace and allowing Wolves to play 15 yards, 10 yards higher up the pitch. That's the only thing I can see, because it's certainly not in terms of reading the game or in terms of distribution. It must be about pace. And if Gary wants to get that squeeze on higher up, then so be it.
And that's all well and good, and that's fine. I get that argument. But on Saturday, you're coming up against Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz isn't going to go in behind you with pace. Kai Havertz is just that clever player that gets in those pockets. So I sort of get it if you're coming up against a dynamic front two, but that wasn't the case on Saturday.
No, and that's fair, but we've spent enough on Totti. So, Tyler,
no, we'll have another hour, son. Come on.
Let's try and bring you a bit happier. Ryan Ait-Nouri, we've talked about it earlier on. Ryan Ait-Nouri's best position and what going forward. You asked me a question, so just your take on his performance.
Me or Knock?
You're called Tyler, aren't you?
I just I love Ait-Nouri, but I just don't think we get the best out of him at left back in the back four. I think he's so good going forward in that 3, and I've been banging on this podcast for the last 2 or 3 years about going to a back 4. But the more I look at the personnel we've got at the moment, the more I think we're suited to the 3 at the back. And I think he was okay. I don't think much came down his side. But then there's the argument that the goal came from there for the first one, and then the second one as well. So I don't know. I think it's another quandary for us. I think he's obviously the most gifted footballer we've got. I think you're right. His ability is unbelievable. Is he a left back in the back 4? I'm not too sure he is, to be honest. I think his position is left wing back.
Just to jump in there quickly before we move on to the midfield, saying, and I know you mentioned then in terms of, this is why we're here to debate it out, talking about we're better suited to a back 5. I think that's a bit soon to judge after giving Gary a chance to play with 4 after we've just lost 2-0 at Arsenal. And yes, we've lost. Nocky could be right. They could have opened it whenever they fancied it. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But they weren't really punishing Wolves, and neither of our centre-backs were getting hammered. They defended quite well. It was our own mistakes of distribution that set them up, and our poor goalkeeping. Wolves weren't getting torn open. It was not 1-2, tick-a-tack-a, bang. That wasn't happening. Jose Sarr.
No, I'm not basing it on yesterday. I'm basing it on the personnel that we've got in the squad at the moment. That's what I'm basing it on.
Okay, fair. Okay. Nocky, let's move into the midfield. I think a solid performance from both of them, but Joe Gomez.
I thought he was good. He looked a class above anything in that midfield for me, and I include Declan Rice in that, who I think's the most overrated midfielder in world football.
Right on then, Nocky yesterday.
No, I do. I think he's vastly overrated. And I thought Gomez was the better of the two. I know they weren't playing exactly the same position, but he just oozes quality. The way he brings the ball out, the way he's calm and controlled in possession, and he's looking forward. He's looking for the right pass. I thought he was very good yesterday. For me, I think he was probably our best player because of the way he stopped that flow of traffic through the midfield. He was just very organised. So I'll be glad when the window shuts and he's still a Wolves player. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many windows we'll still have him for, in all honesty, because the kids are class above anything else we've got.
Class act. And again, sometimes if your centre backs aren't that troubled, it's because of the hard work that's happening in front of them. And I think we can credit with João Gomez and Mario for that. On the subject of Mario, probably in João Gomez's shadow on Saturday, not his best game, but by far not a poor performance from Mario.
I liked it a lot. I think he was second best behind Gomez. I thought them two were very good, to be fair. You just know what you're going to get with them. They're just all action. You just can't say a bad thing about them. I thought Gomez was excellent, but I didn't think Mario was too far behind him, to be honest.
Yeah.
The only negative is that he didn't press for that cross for the first goal, but which is unlike him, because normally he's all guts and glory, isn't he? But I thought it was a very good performance, and And those two, as we've talked about before, they're the first two names on the team sheet, aren't they?
And as we mentioned about in terms of when we were analysing the match, when you're playing against such a good opponent, it's those fine margins. If you're not getting a double press on someone like Saka, he's going to push one and bang, and that's exactly what happened. And those fine margins against the very best are the difference, and that's why they won 2-0 and why. I mean, we talked about Strand Larsen's header, but we'll move on. Moving on to Jean-Luc Bellegarde now. Social media, you can't really judge on this one because some people saying didn't do enough. I actually thought Jean-Luc did okay. I thought he was neat and he was tidy. It was good determination. I didn't really see anything bad. Yeah, I didn't see anything great. I just thought he was all right.
I think, again, it's not the right game to judge him. But when we're talking about Mario and Gomez and the way that they controlled the game and played their roles perfectly, I still think that he flatters to deceive. I think there's something there. He's got good feet. He's got a bit of pace about him. I want to see him commit people a bit more. I want to see him drive forward. I think he's got something about him that I just don't think we're seeing at the moment. I'm not sure exactly what Gary O'Neill asked him to do, obviously, but it always felt like he was looking to release the possession as quickly as he could. He didn't want to take the ball by the horns and really drive us up the pitch. So he was okay. But I think if you're looking around that kind of area where he was playing, he's probably the weakest person in there. But I do think there's more to come from him. I think there's definitely a player in there.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of his talent. I think the guy's a footballer. He's always been the fall guy that's dropped into a position where someone's got injured. And this weekend he was playing in Cunha's position, or maybe a little bit deep because he was trying to support the two centre midfielders. So, yeah, again, I look in the comments. Some people say, sorry, Ryan Bellegarde was disappointed. They're saying, yeah, I like Bellegarde. Very, 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 very mixed. If you are watching the show live, I didn't realise I've just seen Greg comment. You can now put your live comments on via X, YouTube and Facebook. So be part of the show, get your comments, and we'll get up as many as we can. We love your interactions, some of your insults, not all of them, but it's great if you've been part of the live show. Tyler loves them all. Tyler, Rodrigo Gomez.
Just needs a bit of a pat on the back, I think, a bit of a confidence.
What about that jinking run when he beat 2-1 in the box?
Yeah,
in the first half.
Me and Nocky were talking about him coming out the ground, and
second half, sorry.
He reminds me of when we signed Pedro Neto, but I think he's ahead. It's hard to explain this. I think he's ahead of where Neto was when we signed him, if that makes sense. I think he's got a lot to offer, and I think he'll certainly get goals and assists this season. I just wanted him second half to drive a little bit and to back himself and to take the right back on.
He's definitely got the legs for it.
Got in some good positions. Just back yourself. And I know it's hard because he's come to England. He's playing at the Emirates. He's playing against one of the best teams in Europe, like you boys have said.
He's playing against Saliba and Ben White. It's not an easy start.
But I just think he's got it. He's got that bit of X factor, I think. And I think we talked about it on your space on Thursday. I think he's the Neto replacement. I think that's who they've highlighted to be that person. And I think he's going to come good quicker than Neto did, but I don't know if he'll reach Neto's heights, if that makes sense. But I thought he did well. But it'll be interesting when Kuna's back firing and fully fit, who potentially makes way for him on Sunday, because I'm not sure if it might be him or Bellegarde. But it was a promising debut, enough to be excited about.
Absolutely. Maybe taking the expectation down a little. Nocky, tell me about Hwang Chan.
He got a lot of stick on Saturday. I didn't think he did too badly. He put in a fantastic ball for Larsen, who maybe being hypercritical, probably should have scored. He shouldn't give the keeper a chance from there. I think if you look across...
It's a great cross. It's a great cross.
But if you look across the front three, he probably had more of the ball than any of the others. He was always looking, he was always getting into space. My frustration with him is a couple of times he gets into a good position. He did a little step over, got himself to the byline, fizzes it straight to the keeper. So his distribution wasn't fantastic, but I thought he was always showing, he was always looking for the ball. He was a problem for them. I think his movement pulled them around a little bit. But as we said around everybody else, it's not a fair barometer to judge him. And he scored a lot of goals for us last season, didn't he? So he's in the team on merit at the moment. But you'd be interesting to see how it all unfolds if these new signings come in and if everybody's fit, who drops out, because you think he may potentially be on there. But all in all, I don't think he did a bad job.
Yeah, I think with Hwang, and obviously I know we talked about this with Tyler on the group chat again, and with Mark as well, again and again. I think he almost needs to justify his inclusion with a goal or assist because you don't really see a lot. I mean, I thought he worked really hard. He did the teamwork really well. He put in a really nice cross. But I get frustrated with him. For someone so strong, I don't think we see enough of him just turning and driving and believing in himself. I think when there's a fully fit 11, I think if Strand Larsen's not fit, I think he's Wolves number 9. I think that's his position. But again, like Bellegarde, he's capable of playing left. Seen him playing in the 10 pre-season, playing right or playing in the 9. So he's somebody that probably won't really get along running the team. I don't imagine if Wolves sign the 4th Gomez from Ajax, I'd imagine he will start over Hwang, and that'll be our natural right-hand side player, whether we swap him with Rodriguez. I don't know. It's hard. You can't criticise Hwang's professionalism and his dedication because he works so hard. He's a team player. He's such a great pro. I think sometimes he doesn't do the basics particularly well, Tyler. Am I being harsh there, or?
I think the thing you can say about him, whoever's the manager, they like him, don't they?
Mm.
They want him in the team, and they see him day in, day out, week in, week out. He always gets the nod, doesn't he? And he got the nod yesterday. And you could argue when Kuhner's back, you're probably thinking Kuhner and Larsen are going to start. Does that leave one more space potentially?
I don't see Rodrigo not starting in pre-season. I don't see Rodrigo not starting.
That's what I mean. So where does Hwang fit in?
Is Hwang not a Larsen replacement though? Is he not? You know, because I know he likes to play through the middle, and he's done that before.
Yeah, that's what I said like earlier on. I think when everyone's, I mean, it's very, you can use 5 subs now. You can use so many players in a game of football. You've got 9 subs in total. It's a proper squad game. It is slowly morphing into that American dream that you've got Noki in terms of. I know you love that, but I think he's very much the backup number 9 as the season goes on. And peak Hwang at number 9 away at Brentford last Christmas was unbelievable. The touch and the volley, the finish. We've not seen that Hwang now for 8 months. I hope we have that Hwang again. And that's why he's talked about being a £20 million footballer going to France. You don't get them numbers without being good. But I've not seen
some very good goals last season.
Yeah.
Newcastle at home, that goal was world class. He's got the ability, hasn't he? You just need to see it week in, week out.
He's the most natural finisher at the club for me. I think he's the one that you inside the area of the ball's 7, 8, 9 yards out because he's the one most likely to finish it.
Yeah, he's football gift. He finds space like no one else at the club in the box. He's great at finding the ball and being the end of it. And we saw on his debut, I think he got 2 against Newcastle, beat them 2-0, 2-1. Those 2 finishes, the guy can finish. The guy can finish.
They did have Cole Darlow in goal, to be fair.
That's true. Yeah, that's very, very true. But I haven't seen that Hwang for 7, 8 months now. And we need, if you're going to be in the team with potentially...
We turned what, £20 million down in the summer?
That's a big shout for me. That is for a player that's not probably going to gain in value. Obviously, there's the commercial aspect. I don't know if that played, but as you said, Tyler, all the managers like him. He's a popular guy around the club. He's been given the captaincy a few times in pre-season at various times. He's clearly respected. He's a great team player. You cannot. The only thing you can criticise sometimes is, well, you know what, I'm going to need a little bit more from you. If you're starting every week, I'm going to need you to create a bit more score because sometimes you'll go them spells for half an hour, and I've not seen you. But you know what, we're playing at Arsenal, so you've been marked by against probably the best defence in Europe at the moment. So let's not be overcritical.
I think as well, just one final point on Hwang. You're right, we didn't see him for 7 or 8 months, but we won one of our last 10. So you could kind of argue that points to most of the team in attacking areas. So I think... Look, we know that he comes with problems. He'll disappear up a few blind alleys at times, but there's enough there for me to him still be a part of the squad. And at 20 million, I'm not sure we could replace his goals.
There's no question. I'm not saying or taking. I mean, if Wolves had got 25 million, I think that would have been silly to tender. I think that's a silly move. I think at 28, 29, is he?
Yeah.
I think that would be foolish to turn that down. Hwang's a great pro. He scored some really important goals. He's a great finisher. But to be a regular starter in the team going football that's going to be more pure and more direct, I'm going to need more from you. I think that's fair. I can't remember whose goat was. We've flexed this really well. Noki, your first take on Strand Larsen?
He's playing against the two best centre halves in the league, arguably. He's certainly playing against the best defence. So I don't want to be critical of him. He got himself into a really good position for the header from the Hwang cross. As I said, I'm maybe being hypercritical, but I think he puts it too central. If he gets a little bit, perhaps less contact on it, it fizzes towards the far post. And I don't think Ray gets anywhere near it. There were some good moments, but I thought he needs to work on holding the ball up a little bit. That's going to be his main objective while he's here, is to hold the ball up and then play the wide players in and get us up the pitch a little bit. There was a few times the ball bounced off him. But I thought his work rate was good. He grew into the game a little bit more, I think, as it went on. So in terms of debuts, it's the worst place you probably want to go other than going to Man City. But I thought he did a decent job for us. There's enough there to think that potentially there's a player.
Yeah, I mean, who got really near him? How much support did he get? I think we're going to see the best of him and Cunha when they're together, because you've got someone that can link the play. Larsen, for me, is a very intelligent footballer. Some of the passing and links he did in pre-season, you can see he wants to assist. He's a footballer. He's there as a foil. And I think him and Cunha will be a good partnership. Hopefully we can get them playing together for a long time. Tyler, I know us three, you two are on the same side with this, but I think that's more of a brilliant save than a bad miss.
It's a very good save. It is a very good save. But look at when they got a chance to get a header, buried it. You just got to take chances. What did we say driving up? We all said it, didn't we? If you don't take chances in this league, it's brutal. And it is brutal. And you only get one or two at places like that. I'm with you, Ron. I don't think he could have done much more than he did. There's an argument he could have powered it near post or glanced it far post. I don't think he could have done much more with that chance, to be honest. And it was a very, very good save. So I'm not knocking him for that at all.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost with any headers coming in, I mean, heading's an art as well. It's a great ball. The first thing you do is hit the target. The second thing you try and do is if you can get it in one of the corners. He did get it in the corner. It was going in the corner. I'm frustrated he didn't score. And you know what, Nocky? We got a bit excited and thought we'd scored, and you were kissing me, and it was lovely. But was that the football? But we thought we'd scored. It was more of that. That's the composure. I think most keepers aren't saving that. I just think it's a brilliant save.
It's a bit of a Hollywood save, though, isn't it? He's made a lot more of it than he probably needs to. It's a little bit more comfortable than he's made it look. But yeah, I mean, Chris isn't wrong at all. It's not a terrible header in the slightest. And as I said, if I'm being hypercritical, I think he should maybe bury it. But I think it's also as important that he's getting into those positions, especially against a back four of that quality. If you can get yourself into a position where we're having this discussion, there's obviously something about him, isn't there?
Well, that's nice. I was just going to say, it was nice the fact we had a ball. We had Hwang who just had a touch and whipped it in. We couldn't do that last year because there was no one there to whip it into. So that's a massive positive for me.
That's a really good point, Knocker. Really, really good point. And I always, and it sounds really basic, but I say this really often. The time I get worried about a centre forward is when he doesn't have chances. I can cope with a centre forward missing chances, because if you're getting week in, week out, and he's not creating or he's not scoring, like sometimes Hwang has done in spells, you're thinking, well, I'm not sure you're justifying your place in the team. Larsen found space in between the best defensive pair in the Premier League, if not around Europe last season. More of that to come. There'll be goals to come. Have we covered it? Have we done Rodrigo Gomez? We have, haven't we? We've done everybody in the 11. Let's move on to a few questions. I mean, we've hammered through this. I think some of these are going to cover what we've talked about, but let's just hammer through. David J says, hi, there's three myths. Sara's a good shot stopper. Toti's a centre back. I love Ait-Nouri, one of our best attacking players, but a left back. I think we've covered most of that, David. Again, I don't want to be overcritical because we're away to Arsenal. The first game of the season, back four, Premier League, a lot of bravery. Jose Sarr, in his first season, statistically the best shot stopper in European football. I don't think he's a bad shot stopper. I just think sometimes he's a bit erratic. If you're going to make some bad decisions, Arsenal away is not the worst one to make. I'd be more gutted if he's making them at home, but I'm not justifying the performance. I thought he was poor. I agree with Tyler's rating for him. Toti, again, does all his best work without the ball. Ait-Nouri, I think we've covered it as well in terms of I want that guy out on the ball as much as possible, and I think it'll be cutting inside to joining the midfield. Thanks for being part of the show with your comments there. Let's move on to Sean. Sean says, with attacking players costing a limb, would you put it past Fosun and Hobbs more cost-effective to replace Neto by giving Ait-Nouri the Gareth Bale treatment and sign a left-back? I read that question earlier on. I actually think it's got some legs, and I wouldn't be against Ait-Nouri in a forward position. I don't think it's going to happen. We saw at the end of the last season, Tyler, how good Ait-Nouri is going forward. But I think Gary wants that player with that ability who's got the talent that can start attacks from defence. That's my take anyway.
Yeah, I think Ryan Ait-Nouri is our left back this season. But I'm with you. It's not like that wouldn't happen. I think we're very top heavy at the moment with forwards and wide forwards. So if the Ajax guy's coming in, which it sounds like he might be, surely we've got to shift 2 or 3 out the door, I would have
Dents
thought.
and Geds, I think, will be gone then if that's the case.
Dents, Guedes, Chiquinho, they're your obvious 3. Sarabia, there's big links with going.
We can't let them all go. We can't let all 4 go because then we're short again. So you probably have to keep 2 of those. Nocky, which two of those are you keeping? Which 2 are you getting rid of?
I'd keep Dents and I'd keep Guedes, and I'd probably let Chiquinho and Sarabia go. I think Sarabia is a very good footballer. I think he's talented. I don't think he suits what we want to do. I want to see him in a 10, and I don't think there's a position for him at the club to play in a 10.
Not if, in terms of what we talked about earlier on, wanting the pace and the pace starting from the back to the front. If he wants that throughout the team, then talent, no question. But yeah, we know the score with him. Sean, thank you for being part of the Wolves report. Still with us, even with Nelson, players have a little width. Could we see Rodrigo flip over to the right hand side, and here Ait-Nouri can provide more natural balanced threat? Because Rodrigo did play right back. There's a variety of how I'm reading that question in different ways. Rodrigo, could he? I don't know.
It's a fluid game, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a fluid game. You're going to play. You're not regimented to a position anymore. You'll see inverted wingers. You'll see players dropping. Yeah, I think there's no solid position. You're no longer a number 9. You're no longer a right winger. You'll go where you need to go. So I think you will see him all over the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Still with us. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you, everybody. As mentioned, you're watching episode 103 of the Wolves Report. Chris Tyler, Mark Knocker, and myself, Ryan Lester. The show is broadcast live. You can now comment live via X, Twitter, and Facebook, or you can watch back as well. And also, it'll be on Spotify as of Monday morning. I had so many more questions, but we've absolutely gone through it like no one's business. We've done 58 minutes so far. Something that I was hoping to avoid, but I'm not going to. It didn't involve Wolverhampton Wanderers, but we were coming back home in the car and we saw the video, VAR, gentlemen. Now, this isn't the podcast to be talking about Aston Villa, but that penalty against them, what's the point of VAR? Because there's so many hypocritical statements. I mean, Tyler, we watched the video. Matty Cash gets the ball. So the ref gives a penalty, VAR sees it, but sticks with the on-field decision. I'm like, we're going here again. If you're saying, we're going to do more, we're going to do more to stick with the on-field decision. Well, if that's the case, then why have you got VAR? VAR isn't a selective tool. You use it or you don't, because if the video assistant referee can see there's been contact with the ball, it's not a penalty. But then you're encouraging the officials to stick their on-field decision. Nocky, make sense of that for me.
You can't make sense of it. I mean, they had an opportunity to bin it, and we said at the time, if your club doesn't engage your supporters in a decision like that, you're no longer a supporter, you're a customer, because they made a decision that they wanted to keep that system in place regardless of what the fans said. If they had a bit of fan vote, I think it'd be gone now. So they've made their own bed. So when you hear people like Sean Dyche and people like that complaining about it, you've got no grounds to moan because you could have been gone by now. So you reap what you sow.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think Everton, Forest and Wolves all had a fair run of stinkers last season. Sean Dyche was quickly to moan about it, saying, we don't get that one. Well, guess what, Sean? You and your club voted it in last season, and everyone did as they were told, and let's stick with VAR because it's going to get better. To be
fair to Sean Dyche, though, in his game, the referee's gone over to the monitor
and there's no replay,
and they've still come up with a decision. So
it's a belter at it.
Yeah. What? There's nothing left to say. Is that they've gone to look at a monitor. The monitor's not working. and he's still give a decision.
You got 35,000 people in the stadium, about 17 cameras, and they thought no one would notice that he just said VAR on the screen. It's absolutely fantastic.
It might be Steve Lees, I might be wrong, but I think they've had to come out on the first weekend and justify 19 decisions already. So, we all know where we are with it. We all know what's wrong with it. But like you said, Ryan, the clubs have voted to keep it, so I've got absolutely no sympathy.
Well, you know what? There's not a lot of things that Jeff Shear's done. And whether it was a marketing tool for the disastrous season ticket prices, he came out and did the right thing, and he will nod to the club for doing that. But it's very much a decision that's appeasing other markets, but certainly not appeasing the spectators and the hard money paying people that travelled to games home and away, whether it was little or not. The people that are going to games are suffering. They've suffered again this weekend. It's our game and they're chiseling away from us. Just let football be football and let us have our moments back. But yeah, that's enough of VAR this week. But it fucking stinks, doesn't it? But there we go. I'm sorry. It does.
Ryan, how on your own show as well?
It's past 10 o'clock now. I can do whatever I want. Watershed's gone.
Some people will be listening to this back in the morning, Ryan, and you've sworn at them. So
I'll put explicits on now. Anyway, the red wine's absolutely delightful. Thank you very much. We talked about briefly transfers. I have a really strong belief that we'll get another right forward. Obviously, we've got Gomez, who was an unused sub today for Ajax on Sunday. Ajax lost 2-1. We've seen the scouting reports. I'm very confident that will happen. And I also think there'll be a left centre-back. Whether it's a development player, I think Wolves will get at least two in. We talked about a section on this. I don't think there's much more we can cover. We talked about it. People saying they're not sure what will happen. I'm sure there'll be more business. I'm confident.
But do we want development players? Do we want players who are coming? I mean, for me, we need players who walk into the 11, not players who walk into the squad.
Okay,
if this guy from Ajax is 19.
You're right. And I will counter that to get a side agreement in that if there's a development player who's for sale, who is touted as a very good footballer, and you can spend 4 or 5 million for him, I think as a Premier League club, they are gambles that you have to take. If you're in a position to get someone that's very good, 4 or 5 million isn't going to change the world for Wolverhampton Wanderers. If there's a player that you can get that's very good, I think you get him.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
How does that sit with you boys? Knocker's just forked out over £1,000 for a season ticket for him and his lad. We've made £100 million, and you're on about
2.5. But yeah, you're right.
4 or 5 million.
And we've got more than that with Guedes as well.
Unless we have a very good start, I'm not sure that's going to wash with the majority of the Wolves supporters.
No, you're right. But if that player comes in, and I think everyone knows who we're talking about, if that player comes in with a seasoned, and I'll say seasoned as in under 25, experienced left-footed footballing centre-back, if those both come in and a right forward comes in and we lose 2 of the 4 that we discussed, I think Wolves are in a very good position for this season. Is that fair? No.
I want people now that impact our first 11.
Well, so the Gomez from Ajax, he starts. I don't see how he doesn't.
Based on what though?
He can't be in the Ajax team.
Why does he start? I mean, let's be honest, that's not the strongest league in the world, is it?
Oh yeah.
So who are you dropping for? You're going to drop Rodrigo Gomez. You're going to drop Hwang. You're going to drop Cunha. I don't think he does walk in. I think he becomes. We're always looking at saleable assets, aren't we? So we're thinking now Gomez is probably going to be the next one. And then you're going to have Rodrigo Gomez, who's going to build into the next Neto. He's going to go. This guy's going to build up from that. I think you need players to come in now, for me, with a little bit more experience, a little bit more nous, who can affect the 11. We've improved the squad for me, but that 11 is weaker than it was this time last season. So, yes, bring in your development players, but when you've made the amount of money we've made, and I know there's additional costs that we have to fork out, and the club's not in a fantastic, rosy position, but there's enough there to go and improve the 11 as opposed to just purely looking 3 or 4 years down the line, because in 3 or 4 years down the line we could be in the Championship if we don't get this window and then the January window right.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm with you, Knock 100%.
Yeah, from starting the
one. What there was a whistle rumour and people knocked it, but it's like
I'd have took your hand off.
They're the sort of players
we scored today, didn't I?
People,
but he's experienced.
He's going to come in and impact the first 11.
If
Joe Gomez is the one, isn't it? He's the perfect signing. He's cheap, he's young, but he's already ready to play in the Premier League. They're few and far between to get players like that, aren't they? We all know that. But this guy that's sitting on Ajax's bench to come and replace Pedro Neto, like, really?
I don't think we're asking him to replace Pedro Neto. I think we're asking him to, because you're
But
not
fans
going
will be, Ryan. Fans that spent a lot of money will be.
that's not realistic. It's not going to happen. No.
Where's the money going then? Where's the Neves, Nunes, Neto, Kilman? Where's that £250 million going?
Well, half it's to get us out of the shit from the idiotic mistakes and terrible running in terms of the transfers, and the rest of it's going to be, well, Wolves are going to make 92.5 million from sales so far. If you put the Strand Larsen money into that, which they've loaned to Banker next season, Wolves, I'd expect them to spend now. How much are we getting Forbes for? 25 million. Another centre back. I think I'd expect Wolves to be spending another 40 million this season. They have to. You can't be coming out making profit on season tickets, putting prices up for match day tickets, sending a load of players and making a profit. No, it needs reinvesting.
But that's what an investment company do, though. They're looking to make money all the time. So for me,
but they've made no money, have they? So
do we all agree that we think Wolves will finish around 12th to 14th?
I think 12th to 14th is realistic. I think.
But is that a return on your investment as season ticket holders? That's our ambition now.
A return on an investment as a season ticket holder is to be entertained and see progression. If the league position stays the same, but the football philosophy from a 5 to a 4 goes, and they're building something, I can take that. I want to be entertained. I want to enjoy it. I want to see progressive football.
But we've regressed position-wise the last 3 seasons, haven't we?
Mm. We've had 2 top half finishes since we've been back. So we are a lower Premier League side. And you've got to be so careful because you're only ever, a real stinker of a start to the season away for getting sucked into it. And we had it when Lopetegui came in and saved us because it all went wrong and we didn't get the players in that we needed. And we talk about Wissa. We know Wissa's not going to come in because obviously there's a lot of noise around Tony at the moment. But I think the point is you want that sort of player. You want someone who's been there, done it, and can impact your 11 immediately. Because for me, if we did sign Wissa, which we're not going to, but if we did sign Wissa, he's in the team for Chelsea.
He starts Sunday.
Straight in.
But I mean, we all agree that Wissa would improve Wolves starting 11. Are Wolves going to pay 25 million for someone that's nearly 28 that they won't see a return on their investment for?
No, but that's the point, isn't it? But that's the point, isn't it? We build for the future, which is great, but you're risking the present by doing it because there's no guarantee that Larsen works. There's no guarantee Rodrigo Gomez works. It could be a season or 2 away. You're taking a hell of a risk that this will work and we'll get out of it. I mean, what happens if, Cunha does his cruciate? For me, I'd argue then with Cunha, Neto, Kilman out the squad, I'd say Wolves are very, very lucky if they stay in the division based on that. So, yes, it might work, but there's no guarantees on it.
Just some clarity, I got confused. There's so many Gomez's going around. There's all kinds of things. The player wears the number 11 shirt for Ajax is Carlos Forbes, Portuguese under 21 footballer, 20 years old, left winger. I think he's predominantly right-footed, can play on the left or the right-hand side. Signed, I think, from Man City's development last year for 14 million euros. Very, very fast 5-10 yard player, fast feet, exciting. No one's going to be a Neto replacement. But for me, that kind of energy and pace and the ability to take the ball at the pitch and go one-on-one with the defender is everything that Wolves are missing on that right-hand side of the pitch on Saturday. But let's move away from the transfers. We've done an hour and 8 minutes. It's past Tyler's bedtime. I'm paying Nokia at the time. I don't need that. So next weekend, Wolves take on Chelsea, who lost 2-0 to Man City today. It's not a crime losing 2-0 to Man City, but Noki, your take on next weekend, are you expecting any changes?
No, I think we'll be relatively similar to the way we lined up against Arsenal. I'm a little bit worried about that game. I know Chelsea weren't great today, but they're up against a very good side. But I do think I do think they've got some quality in that team. Obviously, Neto coming back. I mean, let's face it, we've had Willy Bolly scored against us, Gibbs White scored against us. So they're bang average players in essence compared to Neto. So, yeah, a little bit concerned about this one.
Tyler, your take ahead of next weekend?
I don't know what's going on. I think we beat Chelsea at home.
We always beat
Chelsea at home.
We always beat Chelsea. Get in there, clip that.
I don't know what the problem is. Kuna will come in a week. He'll have had another week's work. I fancy us to get a result next week, and I think it's important that we do.
Absolutely. Well, there's more of an opportunity in that game than there was this weekend. But equally, you've got to respect them because they've got they've spent £1 billion, and there's some individual footballers, particularly one that
That's why I think we will.
well.
I think they're in an absolute mess. I think they're a car crash of a football team, and I think we can take advantage of them.
I'm sure our podcast hasn't reached the quarters of Chelsea, but if they have, they're going to get a lot of clips and fun next weekend if they beat us. Let's move on to the predictions. We'll start with you, Nocky. Wolverhampton Wanderers v Chelsea.
I'd love to think we could get a draw, but I really feel like it'll be 2-0 Chelsea.
You're going to get out positive by Tyler.
I hope I'm. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to be wrong, but I think it'll be 2-0 to Chelsea.
Tyler,
I think we beat them 2-0. No problem. Big man Larsen to open his account.
Well, I'm going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. I'm going to go Wolves 1, Chelsea 0 with a header from Toti Gomez. Get that one down, yeah. This has been episode 103 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to Mark Knott, Chris Tyler. Excellent support through the season. Great pundits and terribly abusive on the way home in the car. Also, a quick shout out to New Homes, Act Solutions, and Edwards & Co, who are charity sponsors for the up and coming tournament of the Wolves.